At 0417 hours, before most of America hit snooze for the third time, a U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon lit up its sensors just north of the Venezuelan coastline. Not fireworks, not fishing boats, something a lot more intentional. Because when radar blips start moving like chess pieces instead of drifting like boats, somebody's making a point. And today's video is about why the Caribbean is suddenly feeling less like a vacation brochure and more like a Cold War rerun, with jet fuel. Let's get into it. Here's the first thing most people don't realize. This tension didn't start with a bang. It started with inches. On 15th March 2024, 1320 hours, Venezuelan naval patrols began pushing farther north than usual, just enough to test reactions. Not crossing red lines, just smudging them. It's the geopolitical version of standing really close to someone in an elevator and daring them to say something. The U.S. response? Calm, professional, and unmistakable. Destroyers adjusted patrol routes, surveillance flights increased, and suddenly, the Caribbean started getting more attention from Washington than a budget hearing. But here's the hook. That was just the warm-up. Because while everyone was watching ships on the water, something else was happening in the air. By 9:25 hours on 2 April 2024, U.S. Southern Command quietly expanded ISR coverage. Intelligence, surveillance, recon. Translation? The Pentagon leaned forward in its chair. P-8S, MQ-9 Reapers, and AWACS-style tracking platforms began overlapping coverage zones. No press conference, no announcement, just persistent eyes in the sky. And that tells you something important. The U.S. wasn't reacting, it was preparing, which leads us straight into the next escalation, because Venezuela didn't miss that signal. On the 18th of April 2024 at 1640 hours, Venezuelan state media announced defensive maritime exercises along the Caribbean coast. Defensive, because that word gets used a lot right before someone starts flexing. Fast attack craft, coastal radar activations, anti-ship missile drills, think less training day, more, we want you to notice. And Washington noticed. Here's where it gets interesting. On 23 April 2024, 0715 hours, the USS George Washington Carrier Strike Group altered its operational posture in the region. Not rerouted, repositioned. A subtle but very loud message. Carrier strike groups don't wander accidentally. They show up when conversations are about to get serious. Now pause right here. Because this is where history whispers in the background. Every major U.S. Latin American naval standoff starts the same way. Patrols get closer, exercises get louder, statements get sharper. And speaking of statements, on May 1st, 2024 at 10:30 hours, a senior U.S. administration official issued what can only be described as a presidential warning without the podium. The message was simple. Any threat to freedom of navigation or U.S. regional partners would be met decisively. No country named, no finger pointed. But everyone in Caracas heard it loud and clear. Now here's the transition you don't want to miss. Because words are one thing, but hardware tells the real story. By 10 May 2024, 2100 hours, satellite imagery confirmed expanded Venezuelan coastal defense deployments, mobile missile systems repositioned closer to key maritime routes. That's not defensive. That's territorial body language. Imagine your neighbor installing security cameras aimed directly into your driveway. Naturally, the U.S. doubled down. Joint exercises with regional allies ramped up almost overnight. Colombia, Aruba, Curacao. The Caribbean stopped feeling like separate islands and started looking like a coordinated chessboard. And here's the part that should grab you by the collar. This isn't just about Venezuela. This is about signaling, influence, and who controls the narrative in the Western Hemisphere. At 0600 hours on 22nd May 2024, U.S. naval patrols conducted freedom of navigation operations closer to contested zones than they had all year. Not aggressive, not reckless, just deliberate. The kind of move that says, we're here, we're legal, and we're not leaving. Now lean in. Because the next escalation doesn't involve ships or jets. It involves economics. Sanctions enforcement tightened. Maritime inspections increased. Shipping insurers got nervous. And suddenly, Venezuela's coastline wasn't just a military flashpoint. It was a financial pressure point. That's when tensions shift from headlines to consequences. And we're only halfway through this story. Because what happened next pulled in outside players, escalated the rhetoric, and pushed the Caribbean closer to a moment where miscalculation, not intention, could decide everything. So don't blink.